Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Guilty as Charged podcast. Really excited about this Saturday Q&A. Hopefully, you've got some coffee, ready for some college football today. Joining me, as always, are Alex and Tyler. Alex, there's a big game happening in college football today, as those who are watching can see by your name. So, how you doing, and how's Rutgers going to do today?
This is like the first time we've had a primetime game in like 5 years. It's amazing. We're on ABC. It's national television. It's crazy. No, we're probably gonna get our asses kicked by Arjun's team, but I'm into it. 3-0 versus 3-0, baby.
Yeah, that'll be fun for sure. Big opportunity for Rutgers and Greg Schiano. We'll have to see with what happens with Michigan. I feel like they tend to have kind of a big letdown once a year. So hopefully for your sake, this is that day. Tyler, how are you doing, man?
Doing very well. I am anti-Michigan, so go Rutgers today. Alex, I hope you get a win over Arjun's team. Your
Fuck
team
Arjun.
so far is... Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Arjun. Your team is doing much better than Steven or I. Unfortunately, USC and Utah have underperformed so far, but hey, good for you guys. At least one of us has to win. But who's winning right now? That would be Steven with his new paycheck. How is that direct deposit? What are you buying with it? Why is it not Chargers gear?
It's been nice, man. It's been really nice. This is the first time that Brooke and I both have full-time salary jobs at the same time, because I was working full-time while she was doing her master's in teaching, and then she shifted to full-time while I was doing my master's in counseling. So this is the first time that both of us have had full-time paychecks, so it's been really nice, a big weight off of our shoulders. And unfortunately, the Chargers gear is going to have to wait. We've got some catching up to do in some other thing in other areas, but next paycheck, I'll buy some more Chargers gear for sure. Maybe finally get that Rashawn Slater jersey that I've been waiting for. But yeah, it's been really fun, man.
Awesome to hear, man. Congratulations.
As it pertains to Utah, it's a rough time. It is not a fun time to be a University of Utah fan. I don't know if anyone watching heard this, but Charlie Brewer quit the team this week. And I bought all the hype all summer long about Charlie Brewer kind of coming in and bringing the Baylor offense with him, and it just, for whatever reason, it just was not a good fit. The team has not been very well prepared the last few weeks. So they play Washington State today, who is the worst team in the Pac-12 conference right now. And their head coach is an anti-vaxxer, so I hope they destroy them. But they'll probably win by like 3 points, because Utah is just in a really bad spot right now.
Charlie Brewer pulling a Vontae Davis kind of.
Yes, it was rough. So Cam Rising's their new quarterback, and I'm excited to watch him, but the team is just in a bad spot. All right, well, let's get to some of these questions. As always, we'll do some of our Patreon questions first, and then we'll kind of open it up to the chat as well. Want to give a shout out to our guy over at the Backroom Collection. As you can see, I have a new piece of artwork behind me about the Chargers rookies. Now I've got to figure out how to kind of reorient my wall, but wanted to give him a shout out to him. Doing some great work. Is attending a signing of a certain Chargers player later today. And so he's going to be dropping some signed Chargers players projects on his site as well. So keep an eye out for that. You can use the code GAC, that's GAC in all caps, for 10% off your order. Highly recommend. Blue, thank you, man. Yeah, had to go with the all black. Love that hat. All right, let's get to these questions. First question comes from Trevor Black. With KC being one of the worst run defenses in the league right now, only 2 weeks in parentheses, do you think we will be able to establish the run before the game gets away from us? So we've heard from Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi that the run game is kind of a point of emphasis. But Alex, do you think they will actually put that into practice? And do you think they will actually be able to establish that run and, maybe keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline a little bit more than we're used to seeing?
Depends on how the game goes. I mean, I don't think the Chargers have the kind of run game where if they get down early, they can really continue to run the ball. I mean, we saw the Ravens sort of do that last week. They got down 14-0 pretty quickly after the Tyrann Mathieu pick six early in that Sunday Night Football game. But their whole offense is pretty much run the ball. I mean, their quarterback, is running and throwing. Like, So, I think that's just how their offense is. They have to run, right, pretty much to kind of stay alive in that game and keep their offense flowing, versus the Chargers don't have the ground game the Ravens do. Obviously, that's not an insult to Austin Ekeler or an insult to the offensive line. It's just not how they're built, right? And Staley has said again and again, we want to throw that shit downfield, right? So, I think if the Chargers do get down by 2 possessions fairly early, I think it's going to be a lot of passing game, both short and long. But, the optimal thing is, long extended drives that result in touchdowns, much like we saw the first touchdown of the season, versus Washington, or maybe that first drive of the preseason was kind of like that as well. So I think that's really what the ammo is against the Chiefs.
I'm all about pass heading into this game, but when it comes to the red zone, I do hope they run it more. Of the 3 touchdowns that they have this year, one was a rushing touchdown. Technically, if you want to count end zone trips and scores, with the 2-point conversion, they are 2 for 2 on running the football in that area and getting a score. So I do think that they should lean on that in the red zone as far as between the 20 and 20. Do what they've been doing. It's not like they aren't able to move, that they haven't been able to move. Right. And frankly, I think this Chiefs defense might even be worse than the Dallas Cowboys defense. Granted, the Cowboys were unhealthy, but this Chiefs defense outside of Matthew is rough right now. So, I do what you've been doing, but as soon as you get to the red zone, please try to use the run a little bit, because those throws to Mike Williams, yes, those are the other 2 touchdowns that they've had, but it's also been some, non-calls, incompletions. So try something different. Establish the run for sure. Bring in some Larry Roundtree. Bring in some, activate Darius Bradwell for all I care. Just establish the run and let it rip.
Yeah. I was watching the Chiefs and Browns game, the All-22 this week, and it was like, obviously the Browns offensive line is great. The running game, the running backs are awesome, but it was just amazing to watch that offense click against the Chiefs defense. Like, they were getting 6-7 yards of carry, and then they were doing play action, and they're just like gutting the Chiefs defense with play action. And so I'm sitting there watching this, and then I look on Pro Football Focus, and Baker Mayfield was 9 for 9 for 160 yards and a touchdown on play action against the Chiefs. And so I'm definitely not one to be like, oh, give me like 40 carries, like let's be a 50-50. Like, just needs to be a little bit more balanced, in my opinion, towards the run game. And like Tyler was saying, specifically in the red zone. And I'm glad that Brandon Staley mentioned, the play action game, because I think this is really a huge game for this opportunity. And we've seen, last year Justin Herbert was so good in play action situations. So it still kind of feels like they're feeling out what they want the running game to be, whether they want it to be more Shanahan-esque or whether they want it to be more inside power stuff from the Saints. But I do think they'll be able to have some success in this game. But eventually you're going to have to get to a point in the second half where you're going to have to, just let Justin Herbert drop back and keep up with Patrick Mahomes. But it would be nice to see them come out and really be able to kind of punch Kansas City in the mouth and establish the run.
Shout out to Arjun's tweet for talking about not having to run to set up the play action. You got over 1,000 likes. I don't know where you are right now. Arjun, remember us when you're famous.
Even Chris Collinsworth. And Chris Collinsworth, man. Crazy. All right, let's get to our next question from Riley Williams. Shout out to Riley. He says, though Bosa's injury designation is probably precautionary, if he is a no-go, who would you rather see more of, Chris Rumph or Kyler Fackrell? Tyler, we'll start with you on this one.
I'd obviously love to see both, but I'm going to lean Kyler Fackrell. If you watch Brandon Thorne's breakdown of what Kyler Fackrell did against the Dallas Cowboys, granted, I don't know how many other plays he was in on, but that one play, he credited him for like a rare type sack. When Thorne is charting these sacks at the end of the year, he's going to credit him with like a rare kind of sack. I don't recall exactly why, but there's just something there. Fackrell has been productive in the preseason. Didn't really see a lot of him in week 1. But week 2, that was a big play. And so I'd love to see more of him.
Yeah, it was a huge play. I think it was pretty easily the best play of his career, given the moment and the competition. Because Tyron Smith, Tyron Smith isn't the same player he used to be, but he's still really good. And so Kyler Fackrell to be able to come in and have that kind of play in crunch time in a moment that really, gave the Chargers a boost. It was huge. He hasn't played as much as we thought he would. It really seemed like he was kind of taking over for the starting position from Uchenna and Nwosu, even in one of the preseason games where they were both playing. Fackrell was the one who kind of established himself, and Nwosu has played pretty well against the run so far. And he's been okay against the pass in the pass rush department. But I agree. I want to see more Fackrell, but Chris Rumph, like I think this would be a really interesting spot for him because both of the Chiefs tackles are very slow-footed. So I feel like that could be a kind of game where we might see Chris Rump's first sack again if Bosa's not able to play. So I'd be excited to see both, but I think Fackrell definitely would be the starter in this situation.
How many snaps has Chris Rumph played percentage-wise in the first 2 games? I'm just curious.
2%. It's
nothing.
I think this past week it was like 5 or 6 snaps, and the week before that it was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I can't remember really seeing him on the field at all, other than like maybe one play where I watched all 22. So like, it's been that kind of season for him. They're going to kind of slowly work him in. Definitely Fackrell. I think that what we saw in the preseason from him was pretty elite stuff. Granted, it's the preseason, but he came through with that sack last week, right? Like the Chargers pounce on that fumble, right? That's kind of a completely different game in a lot of ways. So I would kind of have to lean Fackrell. I mean, right now, I think Fackrell kind of is the second best pass rusher on the team, even though they're not necessarily using him in that Nwosu role. So has to be Fackrell for me.
Yeah, so Bosa right now, obviously we recorded on Thursday night, so we were kind of waiting to see what his status was. He is questionable. Brandon Staley said that the ankle is kind of recovering well. It's just that they wanted to kind of give him the week off to see how he would react to it. Apparently he was able to do more yesterday in practice, so we'll see. I lean towards him playing, but we could maybe see him be on a bit of a snap count, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, but if he is on a snap count, then Kyler Fackrell and Uchenna Nwosu are going to have to step up big in this one. And then Justin Jones is doubtful again. And then, of course, Chris Harris is out. So I just wanted to update that. And then last question from Patreon. So after we answer this question, we'll open it up to the chat here. As always, if you want to make sure that your question is answered, please use the super chat feature. Otherwise, we'll kind of just scroll and shout things out as we see them. All right, last question comes from Zach Pearson. Who's your prediction for Chargers Week 3 hero this week? I assume this is kind of like a game ball question or like who steps up the biggest. I think if the Chargers are going to win this game, it's got to be Justin Herbert. Like Justin Herbert has to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, and he's got to play clean football. Like this is a game where he cannot turn the ball over, which is what I said on our Thursday preview show. And I think if the Chargers are going to win, Herbert's got to throw probably for like 350 and 3 or 4 touchdowns, and really push this Chiefs defense to the brink. So Chargers, if they want to win again, it's got to be Justin Herbert to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin Herbert's a good choice. Just for the sake of going something different, I'll say Derwin James, right? I mean, we talked about him on Travis Kelce. We're sort of going with all the week 1 game ball winners, but like these are the most important players on the team, and Derwin's the most important piece on the defense as far as it comes to the Chiefs, stopping Kelce and being used on all of the other guys they have, especially with Chris Harris out, so he'll be playing a lot of that slot role, kind of like he did last week, but he'll also be doing some other stuff. So I think the amount of responsibility he has and just how dangerous the Chiefs receivers are as a whole, I think this is going to have to be a big Derwin week if the Chargers are to win.
Well, look at me going with the lineman. I'm going with Storm Norton. And listen, it's either going to be off of him or because of him that they win or lose, possibly, because it could get very rough. But I do think in terms of name versus name, if you think Chris Jones versus Storm Norton, it sounds like a loss. But edge rusher Chris Jones versus, tackle Storm Norton, I think he has a shot. And I think that he will improve. I think you, at least if you want to give him an excuse, you do have tape on Chris Jones. You've seen him in 2 games. Obviously, you've seen him as a defensive tackle, and he's probably moved out a couple of times in his career. So you at least have something on him. It seems like they think his mistakes are very correctable, that it's something that they can fix kind of no problem. And if they had the game over again, that Norton would be able to correct everything. So if anybody step up this week, I do think it is Norton. I don't know if I'd ever give him a game ball, but if he can hold his own, I think that would be absolutely huge for the team.
I mean, listen, man, if he holds his own against Chris Jones and gives up like a pressure or 2 or 3 after last week, I'd give him game ball. Like, fuck it. Like, let's go, man. Like, that's a huge bounce back game.
Literally any number less than 9.
If we could get like 4 or 5, I'll be very, very happy.
I'd take that.
Like, I would take that in a heartbeat. So, Tyler and I both watched Chris Jones a little bit at edge rusher this week. And, you watched the Ravens game and I watched the Browns game. It was like, I don't understand the thought process of making him a full-time edge rusher at this point.
Don't get it.
I think it takes away a bit from what makes Chris Jones great. And, I loved what, both of these teams did against Chris Jones is that they made him, kind of the point of attack in terms of RPOs, in terms of bootlegs. Like it seemed to me like they really went out and had the mission of like making Chris Jones tired and like making him play the run in isolation. So I'm hoping that the Chargers can do something similar. But, if it weren't for Jedrick Wills getting hurt early in that game, like we're not hearing anything about Chris Jones as a pass rusher. He beat up on a tight end one time against the Browns and got a sack. But other than that, it's been a whole lot of nothing against, inferior competition and Jack Conklin, who's really good. But against a backup Browns tackle and Alejandro Villanueva, it was just not very good.
I'm surprised that they didn't end up addressing edge rusher, especially after the year before taking a running back in the first round. Granted, I kind of get why maybe you take a running back if you're them, but they had, they took Nick Bolton, and after that went Carlos Basham, who's not really doing anything with the Bills because they have a pretty solid pass rush, and Gregory Rousseau as is. Then Joseph Osai, who did get hurt in the preseason, but he was really good to start. So I don't know why they didn't go edge rusher. Why put Chris Jones out there on the edge? And then with Frank Clark, is not playing up to, what he should be. His contract probably expiring soon. I don't understand why they didn't take an edge rusher, but I mean, it's fine by me. It's going to make things easier.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about it. It's just wild that like the Chiefs defense is as bad as it is and has been. And frankly, like this is the worst Chiefs defense that we've seen recently. Like it's bad. It is not in a good spot at all. I think you've got some interesting young pieces in Nick Bolton and L'Jarius Sneed, but that's like it. And I understand giving Jones some reps on the edge, but to me, you're taking away what makes him great by putting him full time at edge. So I don't know. This Chiefs defense is in a bad spot for sure. Okay, like I said, feel free to use the super chat feature to make sure that we answer your question. Otherwise, we'll just kind of shout things out. I wanted to point this one out from Matt. He says, think that Kenneth Murray needs to play like the player we all think he can be. We were all kind of commenting on how just it was not a pretty picture for Kenneth Murray this week. And I kind of agree with this. Like, we need to see Kenneth Murray play well this week. Alex mentioned, the rushing stats for Patrick Mahomes against the Chargers over the last few seasons. And so maybe we see Kenneth Murray kind of rush the passer a little bit more. Maybe we see him as a quarterback spy. But I just need to see a more polished game from Kenneth Murray. I need to see him be what we all think he can be, like Matt is saying. But one of the reasons that we were all excited about him is that he himself said, like, this defense is going to allow me to play downhill. It's going to allow me to be aggressive. And we haven't really seen him do that yet. So I agree. I think Kenneth Murray needs to have a good game. And just, I'm not saying that it has to be great, but similar to Norton, like, I just need to see some improvement, like be more aggressive in certain situations. Give me a couple of tackles for loss. And I think the Chargers defense will be, very beneficial if Kenneth Murray is able to kind of bounce back this week.
Okay, I'll go. So I hope Kenneth Murray does well this week. Arjun and I were talking about this, and we were going with patience on this one instead of panic. It is very early, and I'm not hoping, but I am kind of hoping that it was the injury last week that sort of slowed him, and perhaps just week one was just him being a week one thing. But they're going to need to stop Clyde Edwards-Helaire. God, I can't believe I have to say that. But I feel like last year the linebackers did a really good job of limiting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I actually think that was one of the games where I really saw Murray kind of break out and start to really show what he could do. Granted, it was only week 2, but it's like, wow, look at the effort on display, look at the downhill, look at the speed, and even that crazy pass breakup way down the field against Tyreek Hill. And so I do think this is maybe it's a confidence thing. I think Murray playing a team that he knows, that he's played before, kind of knows what to expect. Perhaps That'll help him out this game. And I do think he'll play better this game, but he's going to need to. I don't know how often he'll be dropped into coverage. So I'm only asking this because I know, Steven, you sort of broke this down. I know you didn't focus on Murray, but you said he kind of struggled in pass coverage a little bit this past week. Was that like a play action thing? Was that just a, hey, I'm lined up against you and I'm slow to get to the running back, or what was it?
It's kind of a lot of everything. I just think mentally, whether it's, his preparation or whether he doesn't like fully trust himself, there's just he's just like a hitch late on like every single diagnosis, or sometimes even more than that. And so I did do a breakdown on the Chargers run defense that's going to be dropping later today. And there's just a few too many plays where Murray is just like kind of stuck in the mud, and that's against the run and against the pass. So, Nimbasabe, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. Is mentioning that Craig Smith talked about Kenneth Murray getting some snaps at edge while Drew Tranquil comes in. I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but I do think we should see more Drew Tranquil, especially in passing down situations, because I think this defense is just much better suited to play the pass if you have Tranquil and Kaiser White. I definitely want to see Kenneth Murray blitz more often. But I just think there's a big difference between being able to blitz and rush the passer versus actually being an edge rusher, like we were just talking about with Chris Jones. Like, it's a big time difference. So blitz more, yes. Get snaps as an actual edge rusher, probably not.
Yeah, I think this is just the Kenneth Murray get right game. Like, it feels weird to kind of say that against the Chiefs. Shout out to Tyler's mom. So here we go.
Yeah, let's go.
Tyler's mom's in the chat, everybody.
Hi, Mom. Hello. Where'd it go?
But no, I think Kenneth Murray, this is a get right game for him, just because while, I do think Clyde Edwards-Helaire can pose some problems, I don't think that he's going to do something, much like we saw with Zeke or Pollard or even Antonio Gibson week 1, where, it's 4.5 yards a carry and 90 yards and all that. So I think there's less reasons to be scared, but this is one of those weeks where I think you can kind of just put him around the line of scrimmage and just see what he's going to do, see what the Chiefs offense is going to do. Like I said, with Mahomes running outside of the pocket potentially. I don't know about putting him at edge, but I definitely think more pass rush plays are worth it. Just because a little bit, maybe a little like what we saw in the New England game last year. Not so much as to say to start him at defensive end or anything, because I don't think we're at that point yet. But still, kind of just be around the line of scrimmage and let him do what he does well. And I think it's good that they're not playing sort of a downhill running game kind of team, because they will have to when they play the Browns and then the Ravens coming up. But I feel like these 2 weeks they get a little bit of a break, because they sort of are going against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then they go against Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake being more of a pass catching running back. Josh Jacobs obviously injured right now, still kind of working through that injury. So I think there's concerns to have about sort of the run game and Edwards-Helaire, but I think this can sort of serve as a get right game for Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's trending in the right direction there. And he did blitz, I think, 3 times this week and 3 times last week. But I kind of would like to see that number be closer to like 7 or 8. He had that really nasty spin move on Brandon Scherf last week, or 2 weeks ago, which was fantastic. But I don't think he has really kind of the frame to hold up at edge full time. I know that everybody's kind of making this big deal of Micah Parsons playing edge rusher, but I think that's going to be a very different picture against better offensive linemen. If he is asked to do that more often. I just think the reason why I didn't really understand Micah Parsons moving to edge is he played it in high school, but it was also 5 years ago. So, I think if Brian Balaga's playing in that game, then we don't hear about Micah Parsons at all. So it's just that Storm Norton was really, struggling in a bad way. All right, we have our super chat question from Envy Talent. He wants to know, so do you guys see a win streak soon? If so, what week do you think it will start? And lastly, thanks for the dope Charger content. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for the super chat. Alex, what do you think about a Chargers win streak coming up?
No, because look at the opponents they have to play in the last couple of weeks, or in the next couple of weeks, I should say. I would say I don't feel like there's a stretch coming up where their schedule gets easier. I mean, it does get easier, but I think we all penciled in like there's a stretch, obviously, where they play the Patriots, the Eagles, and the Vikings, where compared to what they're going through now, that is easier. But I wouldn't call that an easy stretch still, just because some of those games are still on the road. So like I do think they could start a win streak there, but still like going to the East Coast and doing that, like that's still kind of tough. I I think they could definitely get one going towards the end of the season, starting like when they play like kind of that Bengals Giants stretch coming up, and maybe they rattle off say 4 out of 5 wins or something like that during those kind of weeks. And then they get some steam going, but I don't mean to like. I just think it does get pretty hard coming up in these next 4 weeks. So, I feel like there could kind of be like a lot of 1-1 sort of stretches in the schedule. And I do sort of see them going to the bye at 3-3, which wouldn't be necessarily a prolonged win streak. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility it could start after the bye. But I really think that no team on the Chargers schedule is a joke, right? Like we've seen the Bengals play well, frankly. At least offensively speaking. So to me, I think that the Chargers have no real cupcakes on their schedule. So I just wouldn't project like a big win streak coming up, but I definitely think they'll be a better second half of the season team.
Most definitely. That was kind of the projection when we looked at the schedule. Like, let's just be healthy, be 500, 3-3 heading into the bye, and then, take everything over from the rest of the way. If they beat the Chiefs this week, then yeah, I would be picking them to beat then probably the Browns or the Ravens, at least one of those. You could get a 3-game winning streak in there. But even if they somehow let's say they beat the Browns and the Ravens, I'm not picking them to beat the Patriots until they actually beat the Patriots. So I'm not counting that as a win streak. Yeah. So really, I think their win streak could be kicked off against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm not making a joke. I mean that seriously. Eagles and then Vikings and then Steelers. I think those are all beatable teams. Roethlisberger is pretty bad right now, apparently. Denver Broncos, their record shows that they're good. They're going to beat the Jets this week, but they somehow got Giants, Jaguars, and Jets to start the season. So it's not a surprise they're going to go 3-0. Again, the Chargers get to play those teams later on. It's just Denver got a really, really good start. Yeah. So I think they can go. I think if they any win streak, Eagles, Vikings, Steelers, Broncos, Bengals, Giants, like those are all pretty winnable. And then to end the year, I don't know. That could be like a 1-1 situation like we were talking about.
Is the first Broncos game at Mile High or StubHub SoFi?
It
is at Mile High.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I would call that in the win streak then. That's tough.
Yeah, so to me, like a potential win streak, like to me, that's like at least 4 games, right? And so I have a tough time picturing them getting to like a 4-game win streak anytime coming up because – I mean, if they beat the Chiefs tomorrow, they beat the Raiders potentially. Like that's going to be a really tough game. I know we kind of make fun of the Raiders, but they're really good in September and October, and like we know, how those games are always close. Week 5, the Browns. I have a hard time thinking that they'll win that game, and I definitely don't think they'll beat both the Browns and the Ravens. So, like you guys are saying, I do think they'll be 3-3. To me, a potential win streak starts in week 12 because we all know how they struggle at Denver for whatever reason. That's just like the place that they can't win at the most. But I think they had a great chance to win last year, and I think they'll have a chance to win there this year. So you have Broncos, then Bengals, Giants, and then Chiefs, Texans, and Broncos and Raiders. So I think that I could see a potential 4-game win streak in there somewhere. I think certainly they could win like the last 3 in a row with the Texans, Broncos, and Raiders. But I have a hard time picturing like a straight up 4-game win streak this season because there's not like an easy 5-6 games. Like there is a hard game sprinkled in almost pretty consistently every other week or so.
Right.
I also just don't think that's a bad thing, right? Like this team can still get to 10-7 or 11-6, even if they don't go on like some, win streak. And, if you do start one later in the year, like week 12, then I think that's fair. Like that seems like the thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we've always said, like this season is not the push your chips in season that comes next year. Dang, Andrea Shun is crushing it in the chat today. Thank you, Mama Shun. I had the pleasure of meeting her last week. Tyler has some great parents. It really takes a special dad to swallow his pride a little bit and buy his son Charger season tickets after being a Raiders fan his whole life. So the Shun parents are awesome, man.
I will say my mom is actually this year, she is paying for our season tickets so my dad and I can go together.
There
So
you
she
go.
balled out, and now she's paying for our super sticker here for $20. Super sticker here. Do I get a bigger percentage of this? It is my mom. Do I get a bigger percentage? We worked that out in the contract.
You get season tickets from me, Rob. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I saw someone, maybe it was
I think Blue Deftone.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Deftone shouted out your mom for a $2 super chat. So
Way to
Thank
go.
you. I'm glad your mom does that as well.
I saw that Kevin Kernick pointed out about Michael Schofield, and so I'm looking. Yeah, so on the Chargers website, he is listed as a guard/tackle. I'm looking at that right
That makes
now.
sense.
So I know that he's played tackle some. I think he played tackle for the Broncos, and I think he played tackle for the Panthers last year, like in certain games, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know.
I think he did because Russell Okung got hurt.
Yeah, Russell Okung got hurt, and
well.
then they were playing like Trent Scott for a little bit, and then Greg Little for a little bit, and like the Panthers are much better this year, but that offensive line was a mess and is a mess in my opinion.
Shed a few tears for J.C. Horn being out for possibly the entire season after starting out so hot.
Brutal, man, and it was just like those non-contact injuries are just crazy. I thought when he got hurt, like the way that he got hurt, that it was an Achilles injury. So thankfully it's not that. Thankfully it's just some broken bones. So he should be okay. But yeah, man, these injuries on Thursday Night Football are just no joke.
Actually, I have a question because Kevin kind of pointed this out. So, okay, let's say they bring in Schofield. Let's say Norton goes down. Does Schofield go to right tackle? And then if Pipkins isn't that guy, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because I think if Norton goes down, to me, like the next logical step would be to put Filer over there and then put Hymas at guard. As much as I want to keep that left side intact, like if Norton goes down, I think the drop off going to Michael Schofield at tackle or Pipkins at tackle is big enough where I would consider doing it. But if Pipkins, like, at some point, like, we got to see him. Like, I know that everybody hates Trey Pipkins, but if they're going to figure out if he's good or not, like, he needs the reps. Like, that's the only way we're going to find out. And I know everybody is kind of off of him of the preseason. So I don't understand the point of, like, keeping him if your solution at right tackle after Norton is Schofield, then Filer or Hymas. Like, so I don't know. Like, it's not a good situation for a player. And I just don't understand the point in keeping him if you're going to do all these other things instead of putting him on the field.
I think that they've figured out he's not the guy. I mean, at least in terms of the coaching staff, I think he's just kind of a body there. Obviously, I think they would prefer putting Filer at right tackle and then putting Hymas in, or then putting Schofield at right tackle. You know, so I was going to say somebody who has experience in the system, but he doesn't really have experience in the system, does he? Right, with all the overhaul that has been since Schofield was last year. So yeah, no, I just look, they're putting Pipkins really just as the extra body who comes in on like stacked run plays. Like, I mean, I think that's the reality with him now. I don't foresee any situation unless like they're just kind of developing him this year and maybe next year. But like, no, I feel like this preseason was kind of a wrap on that for not just Pipkins, but other players too. Like, it's not coincidental that Joshua Kelly has been inactive every week. Like, I don't think that that's, something where the coaching staff has really loved him either, as the pick from the previous regime. And I think they've liked Justin Jackson and Larry Roundtree to a much more significant degree. So I think this year is going to be the phasing out of some of those guys that the coaching staff found out they didn't like so much. I mean, we saw that with Tyron Johnson and the cuts when they decided to keep KJ Hill due to special teams influence. So I think that's just kind of a natural thing that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening with Pipkins, but like, you see all these other players that the Lynn Telesco regime drafted kind of going down that path as well. So I don't think it's necessarily coincidental.
Quick question, Steven. I didn't notice this, but remember against the Washington football team, we saw either Bulaga or Norton and then Parham and then Pipkins. Did you notice that this week or this past week?
Oh, when Pipkins came in for the like as an extra blocker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the first game, I remember like messaging you and like thinking like how weird it was that it was like Bulaga, Parham, Pipkins in the lineup.
Right.
This week it was the opposite. So it was Norton and then Pipkins and then Parham. So looks like they kind of corrected that issue. It was really weird when I first saw that. I was like, why are they going tackle, tight end, tackle?
Yeah.
But
very
yeah,
strange.
so it like I agree with Alex, and it's definitely not a coincidence that these players are like not playing that much. I just figured that it wouldn't reach this point where we're signing Michael Schofield instead of putting Trey Pipkins on the field. Like that's just a big time indictment in my opinion. And the Joshua Kelly thing, like Brandon Staley was talking about on Wednesday about the running back room, and like he didn't even mention Joshua Kelly at all.
Doesn't exist.
And so like it's very telling. Like you have to listen to these coaches talk, and obviously there's a lot of coach speak. Brandon Staley hasn't been super honest in terms of injuries or maybe perhaps underplaying injuries. But when he's talking about like evaluation of these players, like we have to listen. And he didn't even mention Josh Kelly, and he flat out said like I feel like we have 3 really good runners, like 3.
Jeez,
he did not mention a 4th, so it's a bad spot for those 2. Thomas pointed this out earlier, and I wanted to kind of mention this about Trey McKitty, because Trey McKitty is not someone that we've heard a lot of. Obviously, different situation because this regime did draft him. But what do you guys think of Thomas's question? Are you guys surprised that McKitty is being an inactive, and also kind of by extension the way that Parham and Anderson have been blocking?
I know Tyler might be more surprised because he did pick McKitty as his X factor. What was that, week 1? And he didn't play. I never thought that McKitty was going to be like a big influence on this season. That felt like kind of a later, sort of year's pick, right? Just because, right, you do have Parham and Anderson who flashed last year. And also you have Jared Cook who signed for the 1-year deal too. So it's a pretty clogged room. And, I think McKitty certainly plays into the future, right? If Jared Cook does move on after this season and they don't re-sign him, I think Anderson's looked really well. I mean, as a blocking tight end, he gets open for a pass occasionally. Like that's kind of what he's supposed to do. And Donald Parham, has played pretty well, but every play that he gets is, called back for a penalty that somebody else committed. So, that hasn't been too fun. So, I mean, look, I think you have a really good trio when it comes to Cook, Parham, and Anderson, and that's kind of the optimal situation for Trey McKitty right now. I know that I'm someone who wasn't so high on Trey McKitty coming out of the draft, but I think that the best situation for him possibly this year, Tyler's dad.
Let's go, Shoon family.
Go. Wow,
the big bucks.
Got the Shoon bucks today. No, but
I can get some Chargers gear, Tyler.
No, not for
even Alex will eventually get something.
not for another month until the checks clear. Until we get that YouTube pay.
You're right.
It takes a while. No, but yeah, so I think the optimal situation for Trey McKitty, like I was saying, is just to spend this year developing. And then obviously I think Anderson is a free agent after this year, and I assume Parham is as well. So then you can decide to move on from them and go to Trey McKitty and start that, or bring Jared Cook back. Don't bring Jared Cook back, draft a tight end, figure out what you're going to do. But I think that, for me, this was never going to be like, here's the McKitty rookie year. I felt like that was kind of going to be more next year, to be honest.
Yeah, him not beating out Parham, at least for a blocking special teams role, is not surprising. I was a little higher on Parham as a blocker towards the end of the season, specifically in that Kansas City game. I thought he looked a lot better. The big surprise for me is Anderson, because he went from giving up 2 like blocked field goals. I believe he was responsible for 2 of them, either like the block punt and the blocked field goal. I believe. I think he blew his block. He went from that to week 1, annihilating people in the run game as a blocker, and even in the preseason and in the training camp in the offseason. Like, yeah, they were using him as a blocker, but he didn't look anything like he has the last couple of weeks. He's really, really come on, and so that's definitely been a surprise, especially because McKitty, even at the scrimmage, I thought he was kind of their blocker 1B. When they needed to block, they would bring it. They'd take Cook out, leave Parham in, leave McKitty in, and then at the goal line or sort of in the red zone, they'd use McKitty and Parham. But Anderson being out there and playing as well he has is a very, very pleasant surprise. I think he's even said on social media that people said that he can't block. He kind of couldn't last year, but this year he's looked like a whole different guy. He's doing really well in his role. I don't know if it's just because he's lining up more in the backfield, so he's just more comfortable with kind of like that head start rather than as an inline guy. But he looks good all over. So really proud of him, looking really well. Like I said last time, Parham and Anderson are only blocking so well because they were on the show. So they have to give us a ton of credit. So okay, before I continue though, I do have to say thank you to Julie Munson, who is my aunt. It's my mom's sister.
Oh my God,
thank you very much for that. My grandma's gonna chip in at some point, I'm sure. But anyway, yes, thank you, Mom, thank you, Dad, thank you, Julie. They've all been very supportive, and they were even supportive last year on Patreon as well. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
I sent the thing with the Quest Designs guy to my family, and they bought some stickers. So, I'll take it. But Hagelin family and Insler family definitely getting put to shame by the Shun family right now.
Oh no! Look, my family will never know this show exists. Let me. Only my mom knows this show exists. I will not tell the rest of my family about this show.
Paying for Ganondorf's college fund.
Yeah, Ganondorf. He's a cute dog.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Getting back to the tight ends for a little bit. I think Steven Anderson has definitely been the surprise of the year, really, because I think I figured he would improve as a blocker, but like they're using him as a fullback, they're using him as an H-back, they're using him as a tight end. Like really, what we thought, Gabe Neighbors would kind of have an expanded role, and then you have Trey McKitty too. So I picture Steven Anderson like making the roster as a receiver. Like I didn't picture him being, their go-to blocker. So it's been interesting, and we can have the Gabe Neighbors conversation if we want, because he doesn't really have a role at this point.
Let's do it.
Because I think Steven Anderson really has improved. He had a great block as a fullback against the Seahawks. He had a couple great blocks last week as an inline tight end. So I think this is fine for Trey McKitty. Like, I think, I expected him to play right away because he was like drafted to be the blocker. Like that's what they all said. And at that point in time, like we had seen a little improvement from Parham, but not much from Anderson, like Tyler was saying. So it's definitely a surprise, but I think this is okay. Like as Kevin Kernick pointed out, it is hard as a rookie to make a contribution as a tight end. So I think this is fine. Give him essentially a redshirt season, let him develop into his body a little bit more. We know he had a bit of an injury history at Georgia. So, make him, ready to go for next year. I think that's totally okay. You're not going to have all three of Cook, Parham, and Anderson back next year. Like Alex has said, they're all free agents. So, I think this is fine. The Chargers will be able to get to use him next year, which is A-okay to me.
Yeah, and I also would just say, this is football, and these guys are blocking and getting their bodies crushed all the time. So like there's a scenario where Donald Parham gets injured and or Steven Anderson gets injured and Trey McKitty has to come in, right? So like that situation always kind of lurks in the distance.
And V talent, Parham is a part Jolly Green Giant. Target him more. He is huge, man. Shout out to Ross Ackerman, man. Section 509.
Ross, how was that section? Was it full of opposing fans? I don't know if you went to that first game, because Steven, you said the section that I usually sit in was all Dallas fans, right?
Yeah, it was like 80% Cowboys fans, that one. But then like the section to the right of me, 232, was about pretty 50-50.
Okay.
Section left to me was mostly Chargers fans. I don't know what it was about section 231, but it was like a lot of Cowboys fans. Like I don't know if anyone wants to go look on that fan cam thing, you can look at section 231. You'll find me. I'm the one standing up and yelling. But you'll see a lot of Cowboys fans there too.
Got a lot of reseller mentirosos in section 230, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show up to the games. You want my ticket?
Yeah, it was really interesting, and like there were Chargers fans around me that were season ticket holders, and like no shame, like everybody, like you do what you want with your money, but a lot of them were talking about how they would buy tickets in the section 200s, and then they would also buy sets of tickets in like the 300s, and they're just like selling them to the highest bidder, so they can essentially pay for their 200 tickets. So I mean, do you, I guess, but it is a little interesting. Craig Smith, what up, man? Happy Patrick Mahomes Eves. That's an interesting one.
Smoking that patty pack.
It's September, Craig. So
shout out to Craig, though. Does some great work. If you're ever in Texas, that's where Craig lives in. So if you ever get the chance to meet him, definitely go and do that. Brant Jensen, do the Raiders scare us at all this year? No.
Nope. Sorry, Dad. Thanks for the $50.
Brant Jensen.
No, I think like everybody's talking about the Raiders right now, like in terms of the media. Ross said that his section was 60 to 70% Cowboys fans. So yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
I heard from some people that a lot of the 500 sections were Cowboys fans. So I guess I missed the joke that Craig said, and Alex got it. So
well, Steven's from Utah. I don't expect Steven to understand Pack Watch. But
what is Pack Watch?
No, it's a Twitter meme, sort of for like whenever people are gonna lose, because there is you smoke a cigar, right? So like whenever like whenever someone's about to lose, they're on Pack Watch. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I'm gonna take that information and just.
Yeah. Your dad said Raiders rock.
That's fine. We'll see you next week. Although it's going to be really rough next week when it's going to be a lot of Raiders fans. There's no way it's going to be worse than the Cowboys game. That is probably going to be the worst fan attendance of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. The Raiders don't really scare me. I still need to kind of see more from them. That defense has looked better than I thought they would. I guess compared to what the offseason expectations were. But like again, this has been a they do this every year thing. Right. I don't think they are the deepest team, and I don't think Bradley will, kind of catapult them for the rest of the season to play like this. We've seen Gus Bradley sort of start really well in some seasons too, and not end them well. So
last year,
once that defense starts to get a little bit tired. So I'm still TBD on whether the Raiders scare me.
Yeah, I think a lot of their issues that we talked about in the preseason are still around. Like Casey Hayward is playing great right now, but they've also played the Ravens and the Steelers, who are two of the worst passing teams in the league. So that secondary, has not been tested yet, and really until they are, like, I'm not going to buy them. And Derek Carr right now is like leading the league in explosive pass completions, and that's not going to continue. Like, that's going to come down. Their offensive line is giving up the worst pressure rate in the league currently. So
over the Jets,
yes.
Holy cow,
yes,
that's bad.
It's really bad right now. And so like they have I forget the left tackle's name, Colton Miller, but other than that, it's all four guys that are really struggling. So I think the Raiders will come crashing back down to earth very quickly. Once these explosive plays stop happening and once the secondary gets tested, I think it's going to be bad. But I do think the pass rush for the Raiders is much improved. Like that is the one thing that I will say is kind of like the best part of their roster right now is their pass rush, which is super weird. But Crosby's playing well, and Ngakwe's playing well. Even Solomon Thomas from the Niners, who signed this year, is playing well. And then they have KJ Wright making some contributions. So their pass rush is definitely very much improved.
NV Talent asked us, if you guys could nominate a Hall of Fame candidate from the current Charger roster, who would you put up? I'm leaning towards DJ or Asante. Did Keenan Allen die? Keenan Allen is absolutely going to the Hall of Fame. I mean,
I did forget about him initially, so I will say that for some reason I glossed over him in my brain.
It's true.
Yeah. I think in terms of Hall of Fame players, like Derwin definitely has Hall of Fame talent. He's gonna have to stack up some more all pros and obviously stay healthy, win a defensive player of the year. My initial thought process probably would lead me towards Bosa just because of his pass rush ability, but he the state of pass rushing has evolved past using only sacks to determine effectiveness, but at the same time, Leslie O'Neal has 133 career sacks, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. So that is the one area where sacks do matter a lot, and Bosa is going to have to put up huge numbers in the next few years. So I think Keenan Allen is probably the safest bet right now. And just until we see Derwin, be on the field some more.
Yeah,
I will nominate Rashawn Slater.
Let's go.
Why am I giving O-line love today? I don't know, but I think Rashawn Slater with that start, and the way he's probably going to play. I mean, just watch any of the breakdowns. All the offensive line guys are just in love with this guy. So yeah, I think Slater does have a shot. He's already started so well, so I could see him just carrying that out. Now, I don't know how people vote on offensive linemen. Is it just they just look at all pros, and Pro Bowls, I guess? I don't know how people with quarterbacks, you have the numbers, you have the stats, the Super Bowls. With linemen, I don't know how people really vote on that. So,
yeah,
if they never really win a Super Bowl or look really good, or if Slater never wins all pro or first team all pro, I don't know if they'll vote for him. But I do think he has a shot to do it because he's just consistent and good from day one. And that's very, very rare. So if his health can hold up, I think he has a shot.
Yeah, they'll have to win multiple Super Bowls for Slater to get Hall of Fame because it is so hard for offensive linemen to make really any kind of awards, right? Rashawn Slater should have been Rookie of the Week in Week 1, he should have been, but nobody cares about offensive linemen. I think there was, Tristan Wirfs was an All Pro last year, and I don't think he was nominated for Pepsi Rookie of the Week at all. So I think there was 1 week. I think there was 1 week when Jedrick Wills was in it, and we all spam voted for him because Herbert wasn't in, and I think he won.
He did,
but it's just so hard for offensive line to really get noticed in that kind of way. But I would say Keenan, Bosa, Derwin are probably the biggest three, and then of course Justin Herbert, man. If Justin Herbert continues on this trajectory, I think he has a great chance as well.
He has to win a Super Bowl. If he does not win, he's not getting over Rivers. I think even if the numbers are better, I think Rivers is sort of going to have the edge there unless Herbert wins that Super Bowl or gets to one.
I don't know if he has to win one. Maybe get to one, but I don't know. As long as he puts up numbers, then he's gonna get in. People talk about, is Phillip Rivers getting in? Phillip Rivers is walking into the Hall of Fame, first ballot. I don't think it's a debate. So people can have that conversation on Twitter, but I really just obviously it would be great if he can win a Super Bowl, but I don't think it's a necessity at this point. And I don't know, Aaron Rodgers has only won one, but he's had all these MVP seasons, right? So on that note, football is a team game, and I think at the quarterback position they do view it as that. So let's I think if Justin Herbert at least keeps up, his level of play and has 10 or 15 years of it, I don't know if there will be much debate, especially if he wins an MVP or two.
Yeah, but I think we can talk about Phil Rivers, but he should make the Hall of Fame, but it's he didn't win an MVP, he didn't win a Super Bowl. Those are things that really matter for the Hall of Fame committee in terms of being a first ballot guy. I think Rivers gets in at least at some point. But I don't think he's going to be a first ballot guy because he's going in the same class as Drew Brees. It's going to be tough for him to go in on the first time.
Well, but who else is he going against, right? We'll see if he gets enough votes and everything. But ultimately, he'll
get in. He'll get in. I just don't know if it'll be the first time.
Yeah, you can make that point. I feel like he gets in the first time. Obviously didn't win an MVP, but there were times in the year you would call him a top 5 quarterback. I ultimately he's top 5 in passing yards. That will be passed at some point, of course, but as throwing increases. But he broke he broke Dan Marino's passing yards mark. I feel like that's kind of first ballot material, even if he didn't win a Super Bowl.
I don't disagree. I just think the lack of MVP and championship for Rivers
Like-
probably keeps him out of the first
Well,
time.
Breeze will get in. They're in the same year, right? They're in the same
Yes.
class.
Yes.
So yeah, so Breeze is going to be the one who gets the attention first, and then we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the whole like you have to win a Super Bowl to get in. Like it's bullshit anyway. Like Eli Manning.
I don't disagree with you, Alex.
I know.
It's just kind of
I get
been
what you're
like
saying.
the
like. Eli Manning is the Julian Edelman of quarterbacks. He shouldn't even be in the Hall of Fame, and he's going to get in probably first ballot because he fluked his way to 2 Tom Brady wins. Like at the end of the day, like that's you know, and if we're even talking about Julian Edelman getting into the Hall of Fame, like what are we doing? But I think Phillip Rivers. I wouldn't bet on first ballot, but I feel like he does get in.
Yeah, he'll get in for sure. I just don't think it's gonna be first time. A shout out to Coach Rivers, though. Apparently 4-1 after winning last night. Let's freaking go. Coach Rivers in the house. I don't know. It's Alabama high school football. Thomas, if you know who they lost to, let us know. But yeah, I think as Craig points out, like he never really got like a ton of national love like he should have. So I don't know. We'll see. I think he gets in. I'm just not sure if it'll be the first time. Lots of love for Asante Samuel in the chat. Obviously, well deserved after last week. Just like every single week that we see Slater and Asante Samuel Jr. play out, I'm just like still looking back at the draft where we all figured that they had no chance of getting one of those players, let alone both. So it just is fantastic for us.
Yeah, no, it's great. Another super chat here.
Well done, sir. Well done.
If Rivers doesn't get in one of his 800 kids will. Definitely some good odds there.
Oh man. How old is Gunner? Gunner has to be like close to high school now, right?
He's close to high school.
13. He's 13. I think
13.
Okay. I randomly Googled this like 8 weeks ago. Okay. I have this question. Where did this Asante Samuel nickname Zont come from? I have no idea where that came from.
It's his. I think people just like, how like they'll abbreviate names, right?
Yeah.
Like I think people just started calling him Zont when he was a kid. I don't know. Like it's his Instagram handle. So I think that's kind of where it comes from. I don't know.
I'm not calling him Zont. You're a grown man.
UCI, their mascot's the anteater, and their thing is Zot. So I always see that. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
It's so frustrating for me. It's like, Zot, what? Oh, Zont. Got it.
Yeah. Zot. Some of the UC schools have the weirdest mascots.
Banana slug.
Oh, I know. Okay. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. I think that is. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all the super chats from Envy Talent and the Shoon family. Hopefully you guys were able to enjoy this thing. Apparently it's Florida slang. Zont, short for Asante, pronounced.
Never heard it.
Okay. Very interesting. For sure. It is what it is. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, turn the notifications on. You know what to do. And please spam us with comments. Help us out with the algorithm. And if you missed our preview, please go check it out. Tyler had a video with Arjun talking about patience or panic. And then Tyler also did a film room. I have a film room dropping later. So lots of content for you guys to take in. Please go check all of it out. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. And as always, bolt up.
See you tomorrow.